guys, for like the 6th time this week, I'm going to attempt to review Sidekick by Auralee Wallace. This was sent to me by Escape Publishing via NetGalley for an honest review, so thank you very much for that. This adult/new adult novel is about superheroes, family, betrayal, and being a 20-something struggling to figure out your purpose. I normally don't compare things, but think of Kick-Ass meets Legally Blonde. The story follows Brummy St. James, a recently estranged daughter of a billionaire who is trying to figure out her new life. She's unemployed, out of her element, missing her twin sister, and stuck in this tiny shoebox of an apartment in New York City where her landlord is threatening to do various violent things to her if she doesn't turn in her rent soon. While she's figuring out her finances at a bank, it gets robbed by a bunch of gun-toting carnies. She sits there and wonders, where is Dark Rider, the city's loyal Cape Crusader who has been stopping crimes like this for over 30 years? And since Dark Rider isn't there to do it for her, Brummy ends up speaking up for an old lady who the circus performers are taunting. After the incident, she gets interviewed by this muscly yet kind of nerdy and adorable news reporter whom she has to lie to about her identity because of the whole deal with her father. Brummy then seems to find herself crossing paths with not only the carnival criminals and the hot reporter, but Dark Rider herself. She finds herself at crime scenes so often that she ends up tracking Rider down and begging her to train her to become her sidekick. Many things on Brummy's plate soon start to intertwine into your typical chaos and madness. I was very excited about this book because there aren't nearly enough novels about superheroes out there, and Sidekick did satisfy my cravings for wordy superhero antics. The villains were interesting while still being your typical campy supervillains because they're creepy and they have tragic backstories. I did feel like Brummy's dad, who was shifty from the beginning, so this isn't a spoiler, I felt like he was too much of a flat bad guy. It was just way too typical for me. There were some great training montages taught by none other than the old wise man. She had a quirky team of allies who donated their own skills to her cause, and as you guys may know, that is like my favorite part of any superhero story, is the quirky team of allies, and this book delivered. However, her tech genius is kind of a sexist douchebag. He's an overweight, greasy nerd who always drops food on himself, and yet always seems to sleep around, and he treats his ladies horribly, claiming that it makes them want him more. And that's never really resolved. That's just who he is. While we're on the topic of some things that I didn't like about this book, holy plot holes, Batman. Of course, this isn't necessarily the type of book that is meant to be analyzed, but that's not really my style. I overanalyze everything, and this book is kind of problematic. First, let's talk about Brummy. She assumes that the cute reporter guy is gay because he wears glasses, and he told her, "I don't think you can run in those shoes." And then immediately he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm not gay, I just notice women's shoes." Okay, I don't care who it is, if you're seeing someone running down the street in like 6-inch heels, you're gonna be like, yo, how are you doing that? Then later in the novel, she pushes a naked man into a group of women, intending for him to chase after them and grope them or something worse because they were annoying her. She's like, serves them right, and I'm like, no. Not serves them right. And since it is told in first person, we can assume that Brummy is the one using masculine pronouns to refer to the bearded lady. Now, we don't actually find out the bearded lady's preferred pronouns, but they do say lady the entire time, and that character is basically just there for comic relief anyway because it's like a man in a dress, and no. However, despite all of these things, I still kind of loved Brummy as a character. I can see how some people would think she's super annoying, but I found her to be kind of an Elle Woods character. She's so girly, and she wants to be a superhero so bad, and she loves her sister with all of her heart. She's so persistent, and she runs after what she wants literally and metaphorically. She has good intentions for the most part, and it's those good intentions and her passion that leads her to be a not totally terrible sidekick. I mean, she's a huge screw up, but things tend to work out in her favor anyway. She's just so relatable, and while kind of annoying, she's just a breath of fresh air. She is this spoiled blonde princess, but she works so hard to be good and do good. I did like how the author didn't try to make this any more than what it was. A book about a former celebrity trying to be a superhero. Superheroes are silly. They just are, and I am so sick of these dark and gritty and angsty comics and live action adaptions. This is what some may classify as a chick lit superhero story, I guess. If you ever wanted a superhero storyline that is more of a romantic comedy than Captain America 2 was, this is your story. It's not necessarily light, but there are a lot of fun moments and bad communication and mishaps, and it's a pretty easy read. Now for a book that I wasn't even sure I was going to finish because of the sheer number of small problematic things I kept finding, it had decent representation. Ryder is described as having extremely dark skin and some sort of African accent. Bremmy's neighbor is a goth Asian American chick who is the main source of biting comic relief. And that comic relief doesn't play on the fact that she is Asian, it's playing off of her personality. However, her landlord is a huge stereotype and it's just played for humor and nothing else. Not only that, but Bremmy's sister is disabled. She can't walk or talk. And their father, who is technically a bad guy, he still brings her up on stage and starts talking about how the city is crippled. And he just kept saying it over and over and over right next to his disabled daughter, who he brought on stage only to get sympathy from the crowd. And I know he's a bad guy, but that's still pretty messed up. Now, if this was told just from Ryder's perspective, I'd be all over it. I would love it so much more, because while I did like Bremmy, I need more Ryder in my life. Basically, I enjoyed reading this because it's about kick-ass female superheroes, but there were a lot of small little things that angered me because we don't need to rehash old stereotypes, because even when you're using them for a villain or for a side character, you're still perpetuating those stereotypes. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars and would recommend this to anyone who's a little burnt out on the gritty comics and movies, but still wants some super heroic action in their lives. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you again to Escape Publishing. All of my links are down below, including the link to go buy this book, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye! I want to do a quick discussion video on how